Five, four, three, two, one.
I'm from a place where the girls are always looking pretty. You might have heard of us, we call it Shy City. We build champions here who define gritty. We don't do excuses, we don't do pity. Rose is coming back stronger, that's a guarantee. Cutler's coming back too, he's beastly. Throwing it to Marshall, the title's ours easily. Blackhawks are winning titles, trophy looking massive. Don't forget about the Cubs, Sox, Crosstown Classic. With so much greatness, we gotta show bravado. You got your boys Ambro and Mike Mercado.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's edition of the Chicago Beat. I am Mike Mercado, of course, always with Secret Produce Man, the best in the business. We are live from the Man Cave today instead of the ICB studios. The whole winter storm had to work, came back in, decided to be in the Comforts M1 with a nice cold beer here in Chicago. So I may seem like I'm in a good mood today. There's a lot to get into, though, especially if you're a Chicago Bulls fan. Last night, the Miami Heat showed the Chicago Bulls what the talent difference is between a championship team and a very good regular season team. We saw the difference. We saw the difference between a really good player like Luol Deng or Joakim Noah, good, solid NBA All-Stars, and a superstar in LeBron James. We saw the difference. And it's not all bad here in the city of Chicago. The Blackhawks, still undefeated in regulation, playing tonight against the hated San Jose Sharks, the second time in a row in 2 weeks that they're playing on a Friday night against the San Jose Sharks. Everything looking good, and even better news as a Blackhawks fan, Marian Hossa coming back from that Bush League unacceptable hit to the back of the head against Vancouver a few nights ago. And then, of course, the Derrick Rose news. So much has been put this season on Derrick Rose's return. Rightfully so. He's from the city of Chicago, hometown kid, youngest MVP in NBA history. And you're hearing so much, just so much negativity now coming from the Derrick Rose camp, coming from the Chicago Bulls. You could feel it as a fan. You don't have to be in the locker rooms. You don't have to be an insider. You don't have to be a broadcaster to see what is going on with this team right now. So we have a lot to get into today. Don't forget, you can follow us everywhere in the universe. We're on Twitter at mmercado2333. We're on YouTube /MikeMercado2333. And on Facebook, Mike Mercado2333. And of course, if you're interested, you want to read some good stuff of local sports when it comes to the Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, Bears, local music, movies, art, don't forget to visit the ChicagoBeat.yolasite.com. We got a lot to get into today here on the one and only Chicago Beat. Welcome back to the Chicago Beat. Me and Secret Producer Man were making fun of some of these other cities that actually had some real snow hit down, and it's funny, you look at the snow that was projected for the city of Chicago and we get 3 inches. It's funny, you talk to people in Arizona or in Texas, 3 inches and the whole city is shut down. You saw when the Super Bowl was at Cowboy Stadium. Only in the city of Chicago is 3 inches of snow of spring here in this great city. Don't forget, if you are interested in doing what I do, you're interested in TV, you like watching ESPN, you like watching NBC Sports, CBS Sports, you're infatuated with music and gossip, and you want to do this for your career, the rest of your life, visit beonair.com for the Illinois Center for Broadcasting. They're always taking enrollments, always have classes that are fit for the hardworking people, unlike other colleges where you're going to spend all day. That's your full-time job. ICB takes care of you. So visit beonair.com or dial 630-916-1700 to have a tour today. So earlier before the break, we were talking about the Chicago Bulls, and you can kind of already tell from my emotion how I feel about this whole situation. It's bothersome. It's bothersome when it comes to the Derrick Rose story. Reggie Rose, the older brother of Derrick, comes out yesterday and tells ESPN Chicago.com that the lack of moves the Bulls have done during the trade deadline could be a point or a reason why Derrick Rose doesn't come back this season. And unfortunately, the way he said it has now made Derrick Rose almost a public enemy, quote unquote. Everybody has love for Derrick in the sense of his hard work, hometown kid, MVP, does some special things in this league. But that was a very, very inappropriate, stupid comment. And the national media is destroying him right now. Charles Barkley last night on national television, the games for the NBA on Thursday night, that he needs to shut the hell up. That Reggie Rose needs to shut the hell up. And it's true, because these aren't coming from Derrick's mouth. And unfortunately for Derrick, it is now squarely on him. And even the comment he released later on that day, saying that he feels the Bulls and himself have been on the same page and all they want to do is win a championship for the city. Nobody from the Derrick Rose camp has come out and apologized for this. And I'm not saying it for the fans. I'm not saying it for the organization. You got to do that for your teammates. Because these are the same guys who have been over 500, 2 games behind the Central Division, the 5th seed in the playoffs, have done it without Derrick. And then to have a backslap comment like there's not enough around him to win a championship, it's inappropriate, especially coming from Derrick Rose camp. You have to remember that in this city, we understand Derrick Rose does not enjoy talking to the media, a very humbled, very to himself. That's fine. Not everybody is like me where we enjoy the limelight. We enjoy talking to people. We enjoy the camera. That's not everybody. Unfortunately for Derrick, he's a superstar. He's the superstar this city has seen since number 23 was flying through the United Center and the original Chicago Stadium. It is what it is. And $96 million is no chump change. So you have to understand the frustration coming from the front office. They're not going to go out in the media and blast their superstar or his brother. But you have to understand that they have invested a lot of money in him, just like Adidas has. And if he does not play this season, that's a whole year that they paid him not to play. Now, if the Bulls continue to stay on a playoff push, then how can you not expect Derrick Rose not to come back? People want to say that there's no superstars in this team. That's right. There's only one superstar, the MVP, Derrick Rose. But you can't forget or sleep on the fact that you have Luol Deng and Joakim Noah, who themselves have sacrificed and battled through injuries to come back every season they've had, even including this season. It's a tough situation right now. He has to play. I've been on the record. If you visit DaChicagoBeat.yolasite.com, you follow me at Twitter, mmercado2333, you understand my feeling about this. I would understand if he doesn't play this season. But the fact that we're into late February already, and yet you have not declared one way or the other if you're going to play, it's February 22nd. Now it has only been 9 months post-surgery. That's, to some, that's a year-long injury. But to not come out with a definitive answer, if your plan is to come back in April, for example, that's fine. Every Chicago fan will be happy. Every player would be happy. Mentally, you could get ready. But the whole season to be off limits for local media, to be off limits to talk about anything that has to do with minutes, to not talk about a schedule. How could somebody, and this is the biggest pet peeve I've had with the Chicago Bulls and this Derrick Rose injury, how can you not have a schedule but always say he's on the right path, he's just right? How would you know? You obviously know when your goal is to have him back. Now, I said March 10th. Makes sense to me. You're out in Lakerland. You have 3 games in California. Then you come back the 18th to play the Denver Nuggets at home. 3 road games in a row to get him back before you even think about starting him. How is that so hard to say that we were planning for March? Or if you're going to shut him down, shut him down. Let it become a realization to everybody that he won't be coming back this season. You have opened the doors to speculation if you're Derrick Rose or you're the Chicago Bulls. So there's no one to blame about coming up with dates that he's coming back, or stories like Adidas or Reggie Rose, excuse me. You have left that door open. We have just spent about 5 minutes talking about Derrick Rose and his brother and the fact that they have not had a timetable for anything. Yet, the Chicago Bulls, again, 5th in the East, 2nd in the division, and just got smacked around by Miami on national television. There's a problem when the focus is not on the season. And how can, as fans, we not expect that to affect the players? We're ignorant as fans if we don't believe that. I had on Facebook, if you follow me at Mike Mercado 2333 on Facebook, I posed the question: is it even worth bringing Derrick Rose back? I've had some great response from Carlo Agravante. No point of bringing him back if he's not 100%. Nobody wants to see it. Totally agree. I think no fan wants to see their superstar hurt. Chicago fans are smart enough to understand if Derrick was not going to play this season, it's for next season. It's for a potential push. Kid's only what, 24? 25? Secret producer man will find that out for me. We understand. We understand that there's a big goal for it. But Michael Jordan, who broke his foot, understandably a different injury, found his way to come back into the playoffs in 86 and still put up 60 points against then the 80 Celtics. So it's not out of the realm of the possibility that greatness can still be great. But all this, Derrick Rose's brother, Adidas, Thibodeau Middits, Gar Forman and John Paxson not making any trades, it's beyond the point that this team, we saw it last night, is not ready to win a championship. And it hurts me to say it, but I have to be objective about this. They are not ready to win a championship. They have a lot of nice pieces. But just like those 80s Bulls, you have to make changes. Because sometimes it's as simple as one man. That's the difference between a championship and a great regular season. Now, a lot of people want to talk, and I've been on this boat for about 2 years now, or at least since Kevin Love had the extension but wasn't maxed out. He's a great candidate to be a Bull. But you're relying on somebody in 2014. You're relying on a European player. You're relying on a draft pick from the Charlotte Bobcats and Amnesty Boozer and waiting for Luol Deng's contract to come up to make another solid run to build a better team. That's 2 years from now. That is tough to sell to a fan base that has seen a team go to the Eastern Conference Finals, has seen this same team 2 years in a row have the best record in the East. It's a tough sell. It's reality, though. It is what it is. That's my question that I've been posing to everybody who listens to the Chicago Beat. Is it worth Derrick Rose coming back this season? If you think that you can make a solid playoff push, and you think a team like Indiana, Boston, New York could potentially take on Miami, go for it. But if you know in your heart and in your soul that you will have to play Miami, and that Miami is the way to the finals, what's the point? What's the point this season, at least? Now, next season, if you decide to do a sign and trade to get somebody like a Kevin Love or Tyreek Evans, different conversation. Now we're talking about a different team. That's the difference. That one player is the difference. You can't fall in love with guys like Joakim and Luol Deng, Taj Gibson, Omir Sheik. The Chicago Bulls did it with Omir Sheik. You fell in love with the player. You didn't know how to sign him to a contract. You had to eat a poison pill. You lost him to Houston for nothing. For nothing. That's what this team has been known to do. This isn't the most money given to him to begin with. Of course, everybody knows about the stories of Jerry Reinsdorf being a very, lack of a better word, cheap. We have that problem in the city for a lot of teams. It does not mean that you cannot put a good team together. And that's what they've done. They put a good team together. Is it a championship team? Speaking of championship teams, the hottest team in the city of Chicago plays tonight against a very heated rival. We got Blackhawks talk coming up next here on the Chicago Beat. follow the show, support the show, share the show everywhere in the universe. If you're on Twitter, follow me at mmercado2333. You're on Facebook, like the page, Facebook.com/MikeMercado2333. And don't forget, follow us at DaChicagoBeat.yolasite.com. Guys, it's a great website for us. We do so much more than just sports. I know if you're listening to us right now, it's because you love sports. But if you're interested in music, if you're interested in movies, if you're interested in anything Chicago-based, visit the website, check out some local talent. Speaking of local talent, the Chicago Blackhawks start off again tonight against the San Jose Sharks. Marian Hossa comes back. Carcillo is going to be back. It's good to finally see this team, even as hot of a start that they've had, to see them getting pieces put back. And against all teams at the United Center against the San Jose Sharks. And that's just icing on the cake. And you're going for the record for the longest streak of consecutive points. You're doing all this against a very heated team. And I pose this question again. Doing it live for the first time here on the air, and I'm going to put it up on Facebook and Twitter. Who is the Chicago Blackhawks' biggest rivals right now? Is it the Detroit Red Wings? Is it the San Jose Sharks? Vancouver Canucks? Nashville Predators? I think that's become one of the better fallouts from the lockout and the Stanley Cup year, is you're really starting to see parity in the league, so there's much more rivalries and much more storylines to go to. I think that's awesome for the sport of hockey. But I want to get back into this Blackhawks team right now. And if they really can go for a Stanley Cup, if they can make a serious push for it. You look at this team right now, they're doing almost everything perfect. Almost everything. You still, when you watch the game, you know when it comes to power plays, it's a toss-up if they're going to have that game or not. And you would hope that with as much talent that is on the Chicago Blackhawks team, that they'd be able to do that. That they'd be able to score anytime they have a man advantage, two-man advantage. Anytime, you would hope that they can get over that hump. Because that's always been an Achilles heel for this team. Now, again, you want to take a step back when it comes to the Chicago Blackhawks. Because we've seen this story before. Just last season with the Blackhawks, the first half of the season being the best team in the NHL. They're doing that right now. The White Sox starting off so hot, fizzling out at the end of the season. Cub teams, Bulls teams, it doesn't matter. We've seen great regular seasons. We know the difference between postseason and regular season is defense and superstars. The Blackhawks have both. And it will be, in my opinion, a huge disappointment, at the very least, if they don't go to the Western Conference Finals. I've already made my prediction. I think the Blackhawks are going to the Stanley Cup, regardless of this hot start. I think there's too much talent. There's too much, now at this point, chemistry with this team. 2 years ago, after the Stanley Cup, there was a lot of changes, a lot of moves. This team has underachieved a lot. And you're seeing now it just starting to click. You're starting to see players knowing where to be at. And even as a newbie of a hockey fan as I am now, that's the one thing that I could tell between a good team and a bad team, is if you know where to be at. You know what spots to attack. You know where rebounds are going to be at when a certain player is shooting the puck. You know this. And that's what this Blackhawks team is doing. That's impressive to me, because the biggest, I guess you could say, concern heading into the season was depth. This team could roll out 4 or 5 lines, which turns into minutes. And this roster is the same. It's just the guys are stepping up. Guys like Shaw, like Kruger, Sharp, who recently was having earlier on this season, was having a tough time pulling the puck in the net, has turned that around. And then superstars, true superstars in this league, taking it to another level in Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane. That's been the biggest thing. I don't care how much depth you have. If your superstars take another step in their progression, you're always going to be better. Always. No matter the sport. There's a feistiness to this team. You've seen it when Jonathan Toews gets in a fight with Mike Thornton. Mike Thornton's a man-child. Jumbo. Come on. I mean, as much as people hate to say they like fighting in hockey, and I'm not a big fan of fighting in hockey. I think the sport's a very beautiful sport to begin with. It's good to see some toughness, some grit from a Blackhawks team that, quite frankly, is very undersized compared to some of these other teams. So not only are they going to beat you, and if this continues, they're going to beat you with speed, they're going to beat you with skill, they're tough. You're not going to bully them. You're not going to bully this team. And if I was to tell you right now that the Blackhawks would be one of the toughest, most skilled, fastest teams in the NHL today, 90% of you say they might win the Stanley Cup. And it looks like it right now. And what's really cool is I will be going to my first ever Blackhawks game this Sunday against the Blue Jackets. So a lot of momentum in the city of Chicago for the Chicago Blackhawks, especially with so much of the news being about Derrick Rose. This team, for as great as they're playing, are still somewhat flying under the radar in the city. Not in the National Hockey League circles. But in this city, as much love as they're getting, imagine if this was the Bulls. Still a lot of work that could be done from this Blackhawks team, and that's a very, very good sign for a Stanley Cup caliber team. That there's work that needs to be done, and they're still playing this well. Again, you could catch them tonight at the United Center, 7 o'clock against the San Jose Sharks. Should be a good one. Another awesome rivalry game. We got more coming up on the Chicago Beat. Great American rap. I hope everybody has a beautiful, awesome weekend. Thank you for always coming in. You're always welcome here on the Chicago Beat. Don't forget to share us, like us, spread the word. We're at Twitter at mmercado2333. We're on Facebook /MikeMercado2333. And of course, the new and improved, beautiful, DaChicagoBeat.yolasite.com. Everything Chicago sports, music, news, whatever it is you want about Chi-Town, we've got it. So coming up this weekend, I have a few things planned up. First thing, of course, the Blackhawks came on Sunday. Saturday night, though, UFC 157 should be interesting. Ronda Rousey versus, I can't pronounce her name. I don't want to butcher it. If you watch the UFC 24/7, that's a bad girl that Ronda's going against. It's a bad girl. Ex-military. She just has that grind that fighters have. And it's funny, I only bring up UFC 157. I'm a big UFC fan. This is the first time outside of Strikeforce that I'm going to be able to watch women compete in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Me and Secret Producer Man, we're talking about this. How legitimate can women fighting become? Or, women combat sports. I think it's great. I think today's day and age, it's a media that needs to be hit. I think we in the media have really missed out on the women demographic. For as many sports or as many appealness that we had that they've put on in these certain sports, this is a sport now in the UFC that women can actually really gravitate towards and kind of show a different side, a fierce side, to no longer let that be a stigma that you're a tough girl. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a place for you now in the sports world. And then Dan Henderson versus Lyoto Machida. It's going to be a really good one. In that one, see, this one's a tough one for me to really guess who's going to win. Lyoto Machida might be the Karate Kid may be one of the more tougher outs in the UFC. Though he's had a lot of slip-ups, you could say, over the last few fights. Dan Henderson is one knockout punch away from changing the landscape of the sport. So at UFC 57, my official predictions, Secret Producer Man, you got me on the spot right now. I hate dragging on the air, but I'm going to go Lyoto Machida beats Henderson and Ronda wins her match against Kamouch? Yeah, sorry. There's only so much you can do when you don't know a lot about women combat sports. But definitely that undercard of Lyoto Machida versus Dan Henderson's worth the pay-per-view buyout. Or at the very least, stop by, Buffalo Wild Wings, have a couple wings and beers with the guys, bring some girls along so that you can watch some awesome women fighters go at it. Thank you again, everybody, for listening to this week's show. Next week, we should be back at the ICB studios in Lombard. The Man Cave was a nice spot, just not as cool as being at the actual studio itself. Don't forget, hit me up anywhere you guys want. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, DaChicagoBeat.yolasite.com. Always looking for your input. We want to know what you guys thought about today's show, questions that you guys have had, statements that you guys have had. We're going to start to play those out for you guys, okay? So please, enjoy your weekend. Be safe out there. For Secret Producer Man, I'm Mike Mercado coming to you live from the Man Cave. This has been the Chicago Beat. See you later, guys.